Juggling work life and home life has never been more difficult, especially now that it all seems to merge into one without any boundaries. The pandemic is forcing us to change our thinking around how we work, and it's changing quickly. There's a big push now to drop the traditional working week from 5 days to 4. Trials are underway around the world, from New Zealand to Spain to the USA. But there's one country that's already moved from trial to implementation, and nearly the whole nation has the option of working a 4-day week. With tonight's special report, here's Margaret Paul.
This plaque at the University of Melbourne shows just how long Australia has been at the forefront of better working conditions. In the 1850s, stonemasons went on strike here, demanding their hours be reduced to 8 a day. Before that, people worked up to 14 hours a day.
The stonemasons who built this building won, and that victory's been recognised internationally as among the first to cut hours. Importantly, pay wasn't reduced. Parades were held for years.
5,000 workers parade through Sydney, colourful floats move through packed streets.
It took a few more decades before an 8-hour day became law, and then a 40-hour week. That's been the standard for a long time, but now some businesses are deciding it's time to take the next step. We're going to see Dr Amantha Imber, the founder of a consultancy called Inventium.
Hello, come on in.
Thank you. When the pandemic hit, like so many, her 9 employees started working from home. But more than that, they also dropped to 4 days a week, still at full pay.
We saw that stress levels reduced by 18%, and this is in the middle of lockdowns and a global pandemic, so that was pretty remarkable. And we also found that productivity increased by 26%.
She says the key to that is fewer emails and fewer meetings.
We definitely prioritise deep work, whereas most people working in knowledge work will spend their days like dipping in and out of their inbox, for example. So instead, most of the team will spend the first hour or 2 of every day doing deep focused work on whatever their most important project is.
I think it's a great idea, both economically and socially. A 4-day work week would lead to higher productivity and better efficiency for workers. They'll be better rested, they'll have more concentration for their jobs. It will also allow them to get a better balance between their paid work and their family responsibilities and their leisure time.
Thank you. If you think it sounds a bit far-fetched, there's one country where the entire workforce is about to be given the option of a 4-day week.
Iceland has just wrapped up a 4-year trial, and it was an overwhelming success. 2,500 workers across the country dropped from 40 hours to 35 hours a week. Productivity stayed the same or got better, and the workers loved it. Now, almost all of Iceland's workforce has either already moved or has the right to move to a shorter work week with the same pay.
That's great, but Scandinavians are always good at that sort of stuff. So how would it work here at a construction site or a hairdresser or a real estate agent? So a 4-day working week, would that work in real estate?
Potentially in the property management department, which is the leasing of properties, we could run 4-day weeks, but in sales, highly unlikely.
Why is that?
A lot of the vendors who employ us to sell their homes, they expect their representative to be available 24/7.
It's even more problematic in industries with shift work, like healthcare or manufacturing, or retail, where you have to have people physically there to open the shop.
This is a pretty broad national conversation that would need to happen with a lot of different sectors involved. We'd be needing to talk to workers, we'd be needing to talk to small businesses, large businesses. It's a huge national conversation before an experiment like something that happened in Iceland, for example, can happen.
But it's a national conversation that we should have, because work is taking over our lives.
The reality is many of us are working very long hours. Last year, 18% of men and 8% of women in Australia worked between 45 and 59 hours a week. And 8% of men and nearly 3% of women worked more than 60 hours a week.
COVID has changed the way we do our jobs, with more people than ever working from home. On the upside, that's encouraged a more fair split of household chores. A 4-day work week could take this even further.
I think that could have a really great impact actually for women who we know are searching out and really hungry for flexible working. But I think also for gender equality, we've got to think about that as being something that's available for men as well. So I think making flexible working available, particularly for dads, is really critical for building gender equality in the labour market.
Changing something that is such a fundamental part of our society isn't easy, but Iceland is proving that it's possible. 150 years after the stonemasons brought on the 40-hour week, maybe that could be a thing of the past. Margaret Paul, ABC News.
The bottom 20% get nothing. They're really unfair tax cuts.
People want to see much stronger action from the government when it comes to climate change.
It's no coincidence that we have a wages crisis in Australia.
Transitioning to net zero emissions, it doesn't seem like there's much room for gas.